92% of individuals who experience a sudden financial drop report the exact same. Physiological symptoms is acute physical grief, a tightness in the chest, a sinking stomach. Why does a red line on a digital screen feel exactly like a punch to the gut? You sit perfectly still. The room is quiet. The temperature around you is regulated, comfortable, and completely devoid of any immediate physical danger, yet your body is panicking. How can a pixelated chart trigger a biological emergency? You watch the numbers change. The value decreases. The red candle on the chart drops further, wiping out hours or days of careful planning in a matter of seconds. It is entirely silent. No one else is in the room. No one else knows what is happening. The silence makes the internal alarm bells ring much louder. Why is your nervous system screaming at you? You tell yourself it is just money. You try to rationalize the situation with logic. You attempt to frame it as a mere probability, a statistical variance in a long-term strategy. But your body refuses to listen. Your body is flooding with cortisol. You feel a genuine heavy ache. Is this just a psychological overreaction? It is not a metaphor. It is not an exaggeration. The pain you are feeling in that quiet room is anatomically identical to a physical injury. You have been taught that you are a rational creature. Modern society demands this view. You are expected to be an objective economic agent. You are supposed to detach your emotions from your decisions. But this expectation is a very recent fiction. Have you ever considered how new this expectation really is? For millions of years, your ancestors did not deal with abstract numbers. They dealt with flesh. They dealt with weather, shelter, and hard-earned calories. Every single decision was a matter of immediate physical consequence. There was no such thing as theoretical risk. The concept of losing something that does not physically exist in your hand is entirely alien to your biology. Do you see the profound disconnect? When you watch that digital balance decrease, your conscious mind knows it is a digital abstraction. Your subconscious mind has absolutely no idea what a digital abstraction is. To your deep brain, resources are literal survival. The mechanism that tracks your safety is ancient. It is uncompromising. It does not speak the language of modern finance. It speaks the survival language of the Pleistocene epoch. What does a lost number mean to a hunter-gatherer? In that ancient environment, a loss was never just a number. A loss meant a missed hunt. A loss meant ruined foraging grounds. A loss meant winter was coming and your reserves were completely empty. When your brain registers a sudden decrease in your resources, it does not politely suggest that you adjust your budget. It triggers a profound physiological crisis. It prepares your body to run, to fight, or to freeze in place. Are you beginning to understand why the silence of your room feels so suffocating? The asymmetry of your emotional reactions is not a flaw in your personality. It is a feature of your survival. You might have noticed a specific pattern in your behavior. Making a profit feels good, but the feeling is fleeting. The dopamine hit of a successful trade washes over you quickly. It is pleasant. It is remarkably brief. But losing that exact same amount of money lingers and rots in your mind. Why does the loss haunt you so relentlessly? This discrepancy was fundamentally mapped out by psychologists, Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. They introduced a psychological concept known as loss aversion. Through extensive behavioral research, they demonstrated that the psychological pain of losing is mathematically twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining. You feel a loss with double the intensity. You carry it longer. It alters your subsequent behavior far more drastically than a win. Why would evolution design you to suffer so disproportionately? The answer lies in the harsh, unforgiving mathematics of ancestral survival. Consider your distant ancestors foraging on the open savanna. If they found an extra bush of berries, it was undeniably a good day. They gained surplus calories and felt a mild surge of satisfaction. But they were already surviving. What happens if they lose their only meal? If they lost a day's worth of calories, the consequence was not merely disappointment. The consequence was a direct, terrifying step towards starvation. The margin for error in the ancient world was virtually non-existent. The penalty for careless loss was death. Therefore, the human brain evolved an alarm system that treats every loss as a catastrophic, life-threatening emergency. How does this ancient system operate today? You are walking around with an ancient accounting system inside your skull. It is an accounting system, specifically designed to make you terrified of losing whatever you possess. When you lose money today, your brain reacts exactly as if you are starving to death. The exact physical location of this terror has been precisely mapped by modern science. Dr. Brian Knutson, a neuroscientist at Stanford University, conducted groundbreaking functional MRI studies. He placed individuals in scanners and had them take financial risks. What happens inside the brain when a person anticipates and experiences a financial loss? The results shattered the illusion that financial decisions are purely cognitive processes. When his subjects realized they were losing money, the rational, calculating parts of their brains did not simply process the information. Instead, a deep, primitive region called the anterior insula lit up intensely. The anterior insula is not a calculator. The anterior insula is a biological alarm bell. Do you know what else triggers this exact same region? It is the exact same brain region that activates when you anticipate severe physical pain. It is the same cluster of neurons that fires rapidly when you smell rotting, infected food. It is the biological center of visceral disgust and physical distress. Your brain processes the loss of a digital number using the exact same hardware it uses to warn you about lethal poison. When you see the chart plunge, you are not just making a bad trade. From a neurological standpoint, you are biologically consuming poison. Does the nausea make sense now? The nausea you feel in the pit of your stomach is entirely real. The tight knot is a direct, urgent neurological command. Your brain is trying to force you to spit out the bad experience. It wants you to violently reject the situation. You are not overreacting to a screen. You are responding perfectly to an ancient threat. But the physical pain is only one half of the equation. The pain you experience is deeply intertwined with your sense of place in the world. Often, the most agonizing part of a financial loss is the profound, silent sense of shame. You hide the loss. You do not tell your friends. You do not tell your family. You stare at the screen in isolation, carrying the crushing burden entirely in secret. Why does this specific type of loss trigger such intense, isolating shame? Dr. Naomi Eisenberger at the University of California, Los Angeles, uncovered the neurological bridge between social standing and physical agony. In her neuroimaging studies, she demonstrated a shocking overlap in human brain function. She proved that the brain processes abstract rejection, social failure, and isolation in the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex. This is once again a primary physical pain center. How does social pain connect to an empty bank account? In the ancestral environment, your survival depended entirely on your inclusion in the tribe. If you squandered valuable resources, if you failed a critical hunt, if you became a liability, you risked being ostracized. To be cast out of the tribe was a literal death sentence. A human alone in the wild simply does not survive. Therefore, the brain evolved a mechanism to ensure you never become a burden. How did it achieve this? It evolved to make social failure hurt just as much as a broken bone. It created a pain so intense that you would do anything to avoid being exiled. When you lose money, your brain is not just terrified of starvation. It is deeply terrified of exile. The shame you feel in that silent room is your ancient brain begging you to hide your failure. It wants you to conceal the loss so the tribe does not abandon you to the wolves. You are carrying the weight of evolutionary exile on your shoulders alone. The scientific term for this exact phenomenon is evolutionary mismatch. Your body is perfectly adapted to an environment that no longer exists. You possess survival traits that were incredibly advantageous in the Pleistocene epoch, but are actively harmful in the modern digital age. The mismatch creates a constant low-level friction in your daily life. Have you noticed how drained you feel after a stressful day of looking at screens? You have not moved from your chair. You have not expended any physical calories. You have not lifted anything heavier than your phone. Yet after watching a volatile market or experiencing a sudden digital loss, you feel physically destroyed. Your muscles ache. Your eyes burn. You crave sleep with an intensity that rivals a marathon runner. Why are you so exhausted when you have done absolutely nothing physical? Your brain does not differentiate between cognitive stress and physical survival. When the digital numbers drop, your brain initiates a full-scale systemic mobilization. It dumps adrenaline into your bloodstream. It floods your system with cortisol to prepare for tissue damage. It redirects blood flow away from your digestive organs and pushes it toward your major muscle groups. Your body is literally bracing for a physical impact that is never going to come. Does this biological false alarm explain your chronic fatigue? You spend hours sitting in a chair, revving the engine of your nervous system in neutral. The metabolic cost of this internal mobilization is staggering. You are burning massive amounts of neurological energy simply managing the false alarms. This is why you crave unhealthy, high-calorie foods after a bad financial day. Your brain genuinely believes it just survived a famine or fled from a predator. It is demanding immediate caloric replenishment to survive the next imaginary attack. The exhaustion is not in your head. It is a measurable physiological debt. You are forcing a hunter-gatherer nervous system to process high-frequency digital abstractions. It is like running modern software on ancient incompatible hardware. The system overheats. The system crashes. The system demands a forced reboot through exhaustion and sleep. Understanding this mismatch is the ultimate key to reclaiming your peace of mind. Think about the specific visual language of digital loss. Think about the sharp downward plunge of a red line on a chart. It is a visual trigger meticulously engineered to bypass your rational defenses. In nature, sudden downward motion is almost always associated with catastrophic danger. A falling rock, a collapsing branch, a predator swooping down from above. How does your visual cortex process this sudden aggressive downward spike? Your eyes track the red line, and your visual cortex sends an immediate high-priority alert to your amygdala. The amygdala is the core fear center of your brain. It does not wait for your prefrontal cortex to rationally analyze the incoming data. It acts instantly to protect you from the falling object. This is why your reaction to a sudden chart drop is faster than your conscious thought. You flinch internally before you even realize what you are looking at. The visual stimulus of the dropping line fundamentally hacks your oldest survival reflexes. This is the reality of your modern biology. You are a prehistoric creature attempting to navigate a world of digital abstraction. You sit in the quiet of your room. You watch the red lines fall on the glowing glass. You are fighting a biological war that you did not ask for and cannot consciously control. Do you finally feel the exhaustion settling into your bones? Your heart races because your body firmly believes it needs to outrun a predator. Your stomach drops because your anterior insula is reacting to toxic, life-threatening danger. You feel an agonizing ache in your chest because your anterior cingulate cortex is warning you of impending social death. You are fighting millions of years of hardened evolutionary programming with nothing but a single rational thought. It is an incredibly unfair fight. No wonder you feel so tired afterward. The next time you are sitting alone, watching the numbers drop, I want you to pause. Pay close attention to the physical sensations cascading through your body. Notice the shallow, rapid breathing. Notice the tight tension locking your jaw. Notice the profound, silent panic trying desperately to take over your mind. What is actually happening in this moment? Understand that this reaction is not a sign of weakness. This is not a lack of emotional discipline. This is a perfectly functioning biological machine executing its oldest, most reliable survival code. You are not failing as a rational modern human. You are succeeding perfectly as an ancient survivor. The money on the screen is an illusion to your nervous system. The threat it represents feels entirely physically real. Can you finally let go of the guilt? By understanding the anatomical truth of your own reactions, you completely strip the shame away from the private experience. You can look at the glowing screen and clearly recognize the ancient alarms ringing in your chest. You can separate the digital reality of the present from the physical terror of the past. 92% of people feel this acute physical grief. Your ancestors figured this out thousands of years ago. Your brain never forgot.